After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
First opening in 1904 and featuring horseless carriage racing. There we go. Nashville Fairgrounds was initially a 1 1/8 mile dirt oval, drawing attention from near and far, including the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri. Hosting unique and mold-breaking events throughout its past, Nashville Fairgrounds is a fan favorite even 116 years after its opening, drawing attention throughout the American oval racing scene, especially among NASCAR fans wishing for the NASCAR Cup Series to one day return to the 0.596 mile short track. We no longer have the pre-70s 35-degree banking, but the 18-degree turns keep cars fast and drivers honest as they fly, or dash, if you will, in and out of the corners. Thanks to iRacing via a tweet made by Dale Earnhardt Jr. on October 22, 2019, iRacers were able to look forward to this track's release in 2020 and have since flocked to official hosted and league races at Nashville many times over. Welcome, race fans, to Pit Stop TV. As usual, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter tonight. Eric Brennan and Trey Patton join me in the booth. We've got Corey Rexford on social media tasks this evening. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the All-American Dash from Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in virtual Nashville, Tennessee. Now, hopefully, throughout the rest of the evening and tomorrow's coverage as well, I could talk a little bit more clearly than all of that there at the start, Eric. But boy, it's good to welcome you back to Pit Stop TV. Welcome Corey to Pit Stop TV for the first time, and welcome Nashville to Pit Stop TV coverage for the first time. I'm still doing it. I'm a few days out of practice, I suppose.
To unpack, Andrew. I mean, you kind of were able to bundle it all into one pretty package. This is a very historic venue. It is something that means a lot to a lot of people, and a track that was at one point many thought on the verge of extinction a couple of times, now being brought back, as you said, into the spotlight. And I would not be surprised if a few years from now we do get to see that Cup Series date back, but the very long-running All-American 400 continues to be the staple of this racetrack's calendar, and we're going to be a little bit of a part of that here. This race that we'll be covering tomorrow night, the 23rd running of the annual official online version of the All-American 400. And just like the real race, under many different types of formats, been on a couple of different platforms. And tonight, we get a little bit of a prelude of some of the drivers who are going to be in the spotlight. We call it a dash for cash because there is some actual cash on the line. But I think more importantly, all of us and everybody who's going to be watching is going to have a chance to see who may be the car and driver to beat when it comes down to the big money time, the 400 lapper tomorrow. And I can't wait to see how this all pans out. And it's a good old-fashioned short track shootout. Who could ask for anything more on a Friday night?
Absolutely. Short track racing at its finest. Here, we talk about, going into our roots, and, NASCAR has their whole home track, short track racing, and this is definitely one of the places we want to come back to, and I'm glad we're actually able to cover this. I was actually here last weekend or 2 weekends ago for the real All-American 400. First time I ever went, and just from seeing that and what I expect tonight and tomorrow, they're going to put on an absolute show. It's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. The original online All-American 400 tomorrow evening. As Eric said, 23rd running. These guys have been going for just 15 years shy of the official race that happened, as Trey mentioned, a couple of weekends ago. And you can actually see the event's organizer right there, the number 35 car of Jim Foose. He's usually in the 42 whenever he runs in his league, the American Sim Racing Series, but taking to the number 35 this weekend to honor, I believe, his late grandfather. And Jim is one of those guys. He's just a good guy in the iRacing community. Very glad to be working with him and everybody else here in the ASRS. We've also got, as you see at the bottom of our screen there, Patriot Media and Marketing Services. They've been a great partner leading into this evening's All-American Dash as well. And boy, what a great way to get things started. These guys racing for... See, again, I'm a few days out of practice here. Racing for some money, there we go. Just to kind of get into a pretty good mindset and get these guys warmed up to what we're going to see tomorrow evening for 400 straight laps around this place. It's certainly an interesting little, we talk about Bristol being like a mixing bowl, a Tennessee mixing bowl, my mom calls it. Nashville is right there with it, honestly. I didn't know, actually, until earlier today, that this place used to have 35-degree banking in the corners. Now it's down to 18 degrees, and actually, we have a nice little handy-dandy graphic to show you as well of the banking. And I mean, track maps are usually reserved for road courses here at Pit Stop TV, but when you have an oval like this, you just have to kind of spotlight it. It is just under 0.6 of a mile as well, so it's actually a little bit bigger than a lot of short tracks that get these big races, and it feels a little bit bigger too. Yet when you drop down into those corners, it still feels like somewhere nice and tight, maybe like Southern National, something like that just has a ton of banking and you really drop down into the corner.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've seen so far in this practice session is just how treacherous the exit of turn 2 is. We've seen a lot of cars get up and bounce off the wall, on a couple of occasions even climb the wall at the exit of the second corner, and that's going to be a key spot to watch, not only how things unfold tonight, but also tomorrow as well. And you mentioned, it is just under that 0.6 of a mile, a little bit narrow on the front and back straightaway compared to some of the other short tracks in which we're able to cover here on the platform. But nevertheless, with this track having those 18 degrees of bank into the corner, the top line and the bottom line can be even at times dependent on setup. But one of the things we talked about before we came on air, as a matter of fact, Trey, is that this surface is very, very abrasive on tires.
As we noted before, the track opened, 16 years ago? I think you said 1904. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's been repaved a few times since then. But just something I picked up on from being at the real track. The announcers there were giving insight, and they said that this track is basically a cheese grater on tires. Just you can even get a shot there of what we saw at the start finish line. Just you can see where this track surface is a little beat up. You get into the corner, there's some patches on the pavement, and just running that bottom line, it's just going to eat your tires up. Especially using that right front, it's basically going to be gone.
While we don't have tire limits for tomorrow's 400-lap race, we are going to see these guys definitely back things up, back the entry to their corner up a little bit, and just kind of roll off into the corner, save their tires as much as they can, because if we go green flag racing, you do not want to have to make a green flag pit stop before you absolutely have to. If we get to that point, I think we just might on fuel. But I'd imagine we'll have some cautions throughout the race at some points here and there that should give these guys the advantage, or the possibility rather, the opportunity to come in, get tires, get fuel. 400 laps is a very long distance. It's over 200 miles at a place like this where we're running over a half mile each lap. So we are looking at quite a lengthy race tomorrow evening, and I really expect tomorrow to be very laid back. Most of these guys to all just kind of chill, really, to just be very relaxed through at least the first 300 laps. That's the hope anyway. Where, of course, you get down to the nitty-gritty, they are going to light this place up. But it's very racy here as well. We've seen clips throughout the years of cars definitely smashing it up here in Nashville, but also just great battles. We'll see a lot more of that tonight and tomorrow. So really cool to be able to bring these couple of nights of action to everybody here on Pit Stop TV. It means a lot to us to be considered and to eventually be brought on for this event. It's big for us to get an event like this, and cannot wait to see how the rest of the weekend goes. Currently watching things roll through practice, and we've got 5.5 minutes left thereof. Kelsey Rogers is the leader here in this practice session. We talked with him midweek as well. You can see that article on whiplash-media.com. Grant Brown is out there as well. We've got Matt Vade in third place, Brett Hahn in fourth, Anthony Pelican lighting up the speed charts as well. He's fifth place. David Patton's up there, and Jason Stewart, Mitch Brown, Greg Evans, Caleb Nelson make up your top 10 currently. 26 cars have connected this evening, so that number might still go up here in the next 4 minutes 50 seconds or so before we go into qualifying, and then we still have qualifying where drivers can theoretically join. We have some heat races this evening. We'll have 3 15-lap heats apiece, and then we'll have a 40-lap feature event. Tomorrow, we're not going to have heats for tomorrow's race. We're just going to qualify and send them out there as is. We were going to have heats, and then we ended up coming right to the number of drivers that we needed to stay under heats and just run the race, and it kind of worked out. I like having a prelim event that doesn't really matter, actually. Give these guys a chance to shake down in race conditions. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Andrew, you brought up a really good point. I agree with you with how I think tomorrow's race is going to play out. Pretty calm, cool, and collected for the first 300 laps, but I love this format because here's something to keep in mind. You mentioned this preliminary event does not have any relation as far as where you start tomorrow, as far as how you're going to line up in any form of heat race, because as you mentioned, they're scrapped for tomorrow's event, so they're going to have their own qualifying session. They're going to have their own practice session even leading up to that. This is a standalone event, and it's truly a dash for cash. But the one thing that I have to wonder is if you do happen to ruffle it up with somebody, is that something that these drivers are going to keep in their back pocket when it comes down to race time tomorrow night? We know the racers don't forget, and I think that being that these races are back-to-back in the same style car on the same track, it may be something that they want to make sure that they have in their memory banks if they're put in a position to return the favor come money time tomorrow. And I think that's what's going to make this event so fun to cover tonight.
Yeah, you made an excellent point there. These guys, tonight's kind of its own standalone event. But definitely running with the same guys tomorrow, you're going to get an idea of how these guys are going to be running early on. We're not going to have as many laps tonight as we will tomorrow. But getting an idea of how these guys are going to be running you tonight versus tomorrow, you'll have a pretty good idea of who you want to be around, who you don't want to be around, who you're going to work with, who you don't want to work with. But, tonight, it's a little different, but it's in the same sense, it's leads into tomorrow, so it'll give us a good, I guess, trajectory of what we want to see tomorrow night.
Absolutely. This is the first dose of what we're going to see in the 400, both for us, for the league, for the drivers, everybody. Everybody gets their first taste of how things are going to go this evening, because even if you've run races here with the late models on iRacing before at Nashville, but since its release, even if you've run a bunch of those races, you could have run 5,000 laps, doesn't matter, until you have every single one of these drivers on this racetrack at the same time. You're not going to get a proper look at how things are going to go, and thankfully we get to see that first look at things this evening. Again, you can follow along. If you're not watching, even if you're a driver, you can look back afterwards. We've got social media updates going out all weekend long, both tonight and tomorrow, that you can check into, and again, you can see those on Pit Stop TV's social media channels, be it Facebook, Twitter, whichever one works for you. And those are pretty cool, again, being helped out by Corey Rexford. I think we'll have Trey Shuttlesworth back tomorrow, hopefully, and they can trade back over. Trey does some great work, but Corey getting a chance to do things as well. We're getting ready to wrap up practice. Man, I'm just not with it this evening, but practice is ending. We have another minute, 20 seconds or so. I think this is their drivers meeting portion, so that's why you don't see any cars on the racetrack. These guys all in the pit lane, meeting with Jim Foose and other administrators, and just getting the lowdown on what's going on this evening, what they can expect. And usually there's tons and tons of things to go over on or in drivers meetings in real races. Thankfully, I think some of that stuff is assumed in these races. I mean, when you restart, just how you do certain pit and caution standards, I suppose, procedures, that's what I was looking for, but I think a lot of that is usually implied. While we have this minute here, Eric, we were talking pre-race. You and I have not called a race together before, but you're not a stranger to iRacing or Pit Stop TV, and it's good to kind of, and not even to me either. We've worked together in the real world a few different times, but it's nice to both be here for this event.
Yeah, and we mentioned kind of leading up to this, I've never been fortunate enough to go to the Nashville Fairgrounds, at least not yet. It's on the bucket list, as it is for, I think, any short track enthusiast, not just in the country, but in the world. You mentioned in your lead-in, this is a track in which Dale Earnhardt Jr. has spoke very publicly about how special of a place this is, and a lot is being done to hopefully bring big league stock car racing back to the Speedway. I was 10 years old when the last then Xfinity and Truck Series ran here. I remember they had a couple of East races in the mid-2000s. However, being a part of this event that on a track which looks so fun to drive on the sim, it's actually the first oval race I've been privy to call on the sim thus far, and I'm excited to see how that all jives out. But you think short tracks, short tempers, Friday night, this is a part of the year where things are starting to wind down a little bit in the world of motorsports, and we're kind of just getting the heat turned up here to kick off this weekend of racing action. We got the 12 hours of Sebring going on, down in Sebring, Florida tomorrow, that we could all wake up and be able to, keep ourselves entertained until we go green with this All-American 400 tomorrow night. And, of course, you got the F1 race in Turkey on Sunday, but I've been looking forward to this all weekend long because I'm excited to see what these drivers have in store. If practice is any indication, the track is tough, the track has its edgy moments, and the field is relatively tight. And we're going to see in just a short few moments how qualifying is going to shake out. And like I said, man, I'm very excited. And Trey, I'm pretty sure that you feel the same exact way.
There's a lot of racing action coming on Pit Stop TV as well. Sunday night, we have the Superior Class Auto Racing Cup Series at Richmond. Monday, we have the BRPI Racing Series at Lima Land and the Northwest GT3 Challenge at Sonoma Raceway. However, as you watch Grant Brown set his first qualifying lap, I was just handed this information, virtually of course, from our sponsor this evening, Patriot Media and Marketing Services. These drivers, the winner of this race, the winning driver, will have the option to accept the Shotgun Challenge, as it's being called, and start shotgun on the field as it implies, shotgun on the field tomorrow in 36th place for the All-American 400 for an extra $25, and it's already a decent payout. I'll have to refresh myself on the exact number, but it's already a pretty decent payout, and to add $25, that's 2 pieces of iRacing content, usually, maybe even 2.5 if you have discounts, so that's actually a pretty hefty extra little bonus. $25 to the winner if they opt to go to the back of the field tomorrow and try and win that race again. So if if tonight's winner is able to take advantage of all that, that's a pretty hefty little bonus to add to things. In fact, speaking of the winner, currently our pole winner would be Kelsey Rogers, but we've still got 2.5 minutes of qualifying here, Eric. We have most cars on the racetrack or have been on the racetrack. I think we still have 6 to go, but getting a pretty good taste of who's fast and who's not.
And that's not a bad incentive. I mean, think about it. If you're able to come out here tonight and in this 40-lap event in which there's no additional tires available in the pits for this dash, so you got to make it last for those 40 laps according to the schedule of events that was released by the series. If you're able to do that and best what is a very strong field tonight, why not take your shot at also taking the momentum that you can garner from a victory here in the Dash for Cash and move it on over with that shotgun starting position? And, long race, 400 laps in total. I think everybody's kind of in agreement. The first 300 will be calm, cool, and collected. If you got yourself dialed in and you're confident enough, why not take that shot? That's going to be an interesting subplot to follow through. And so far, as you mentioned, Kelsey Rogers, who is fastest in practice and at this point appears to be fastest in qualifying, which is a little bit of time left. Many of the drivers already clocking in except for a handful. It appears as though that Rogers has penciled his name in as a driver to beat. And Caleb Nelson, who had a private session open earlier, logging as much laps as possible, unofficially is second in qualifying, which is a few minutes left to go.
Yeah, just reiterating back onto the point where, that shotgun position, I think if the person who wins tonight, we're looking up at the start, the front of the leaderboard here, you got Kelsey Rogers, Caleb Nelson, Grant Brown, Matt Vade, and Nick Fleury up there. Those guys are the guys that, want to be up front, the quicker guys in practice, and now they're up front in qualifying. Tomorrow's going to be all about patience and attrition, as you said, the first, 300 laps of tomorrow's events, hoping will be calm, cool, and collected. Stay in the back, wait for things to happen. Just let the race go your way, hit your marks, and, hopefully by the end of it, they can be up in the front and get that incentive.
Yeah, that is the hope, of course. Now you can see the time winding down on the top left of your screen. Just under 40 seconds to go now. It looks like just one driver has not made it onto the racetrack. That's Mark Myers. Not sure what the hang-up there is on the 04 car. Might be working out some hardware issues. Of course, we see that a lot of times here on iRacing.com because while you don't have parts that can fail on the race car, you have a lot of things that can fail on your wheel pedal setup, your computer, what have you. In fact, we've had that many a time on broadcasts. But plenty of things can still fail and basically be like a mechanical failure in your race car here on iRacing.com. So plenty of things can still go wrong, and it kind of mirrors the real world in that sense. We are getting ready to walk down our Whiplash Media starting grid. Stand by as we get that going. Qualifying wraps up, and we can roll down our starting grid for our first heat of the evening. Again, we have 3 15-lap heats that we get to go through, and starting first in our first heat is Tim Knott. Now, Kelsey Rogers just landed the pole, but he's not on the pole for this first heat because we are inverting the front of the field, the top 5 top 6 rather, in each heat race is being inverted. And yes, for some reason I was mistaken there on, looks like we're going to 2 heats, not 3. So regardless, still the top 6 being inverted in the heats here. Tim Knott rolls off first place. Bladen Edwards in second. Roll back to row number 2. Looks like it's Michael Whiting in the 22 car. Matt Vade in 4th. In 5th place, rounding out our top 5, Grant Brown in the 52 car. And Kelsey Rogers, who got that pole position, qualified first, but will be starting 6th place in our heat. Go back to row number 4. We have Jim Foose in the 35 car, Jason Stewart in the 14 to his outside. And to round out our top 10 in heat number 1, Eric, it's Mike Carlson and Caden Tufts.
Taking you back now to the 11th spot. It's going to be the 102 of Ethan Johnson. And on the outside in 12th, the number 38 of David Patton. We'll be starting on the outside of row 6. Continuing on with our lineup in Heat 1, the 60 of Adam Hoagland is going to start 13th, and in the 14th spot, That's a name that we see on the lineup. However, he's on the call with us, of course. It's our buddy Trey Patton. That will bring us to the back row. 13 cars going to come down for the green in this heat race event, scheduled to go for 15 laps in total to help us set the lineup for our 40-lap feature event. And I got to say, got to wonder how Kelsey Rogers is feeling after being the fastest in the qualifying session, also the practice session, now starting outside row 3. Got a little bit of work to do and not too much time to get it done to try to get up there and remain perfect thus far on the night so far with this, the Super Late Model Dash for Cash, the prelude to the 23rd annual All-American 400.
Yeah, I don't think Kelsey really has much to really worry about here. I think he'll be fine trying to get his way up through the field. We know he's quick, but, the guys that are starting in front of him are pretty quick as well, so he'll have his work cut out for him for sure. And then my apologies to those guys that had to wait a little bit extra longer for my mess up there on the grid. Just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry about that, guys. But nonetheless, here we are back out on the racetrack now, getting ready to go green here for heat number 1, and I'm ready to get this underway and see what these guys got going for us.
Pace truck light's already out, so looks like we're going green this time. That's actually really, really quickly, even for a short track. Well, no, he stays on the racetrack here, so I guess they just don't come on here for the start. So we still do have our 2 pace laps that we have for all tracks under 1 mile here on iRacing.com. And this just gives these guys a chance to try and warm the tires up. You see them swerving back and forth, trying to get some heat in the brakes. I think that's what is most helpful for these drivers. Get some heat in the brakes that then can transfer over to the tires and try to heat those up by association. And so we see those guys, they might lurch forward, lean on the brakes a little bit, fall back, do whatever they got to do, again, to try and get some heat in the car in general. Usually you have laps to get heat in motors and such. These guys don't have to worry about that. Getting ready to go green flag racing on the first heat of the night, though. And again, it's Tim Knott leading us to said green flag. Out of turn number 4, we go green flag racing. They're off down to turn 1.
And now the question is, who's going to get the jump off the start? Not falling back a little bit in line here, as it's going to be Edwards with the advantage. Trouble. Turn 1 got one upside down early. It is car number 14 of Jason Stewart, who goes for a tumble in the first corner, while the leader comes off turn 4, and it's Edwards with the top spot.
We were just talking about Kelsey Rogers not wanting to get caught up in anything, and he was actually caught up in that incident, but we are still green. Bladen Edwards is our current leader. Tim Knott falls back to second. We're looking with a battle for the third spot right now, or actually the second and third spot. The 8 machine of Matt Vade being under attack from Grant Brown, and they are catching up to that 41 machine of Tim Knott very, very quickly.
Now, we don't have to worry about a transfer spot in these heat races, of course. This not related to the All-American 400 tomorrow, the original online All-American 400. But these guys are still racing for a lot of pride, even in these heats, even though they're guaranteed even to the All-American Dash here in just a little while, the 40-lap Dash for Cash race, as it was put in my messages speaking with Jim Foose earlier this week. So, like Eric said, I think you kind of just wrapped it up into a Dash for Cash. It really is a Dash for Cash for these guys, just a chance to get a few extra bucks. And, boy, they are really going at it, even in this first of 2 heats. We had 26 cars come in. We're splitting into 2 13-car heats. And Bladen Edwards is off to the races right now, much like the old horseless carriages that roamed around this place back in 1904. But the rest of the field really going at it. You see Tim Knott has settled into second place. Michael Whiting in third. Matt Vade fourth. The 52 car, the white 52 of Grant Brown, just riding in fifth.
Yeah, these guys from about second on back have their hands full. Look how squirrely they are as they come off the corner. As we jump now on board with Grant Brown, who's trying to pick up a couple of positions, currently rounding out the top 5 as they come off too. Got very close up to the bottom of Matt Vade's car a few laps ago. Now possibly trying to follow Vade through as they're kind of bottlenecked up behind the pole sitter, which continues to be Tim Knott holding down second. A late lunge into the first corner, but so far everybody's staying in the same positions they've been running since the completion of lap 1 there, as Vade scrubs the wall off 2. Here comes Brown looking to the bottom in 3.
He's going to take that bottom line out of 4. Going to be side by side. Not going to get the spot out of 4 across the stripe, but you're going to see he's going to dive it down, hit the apron a little bit there. That's going to give Matt Vade the run out of turn 2. Looks like he's not going to clear him quite yet. You can see these bumps in the corners. They're not really helping them out at all, especially when you go further up the track. but I do know one thing coming out of turn 4. You see there Matt Vade using that high line to his advantage to get that run out of the corner.
There was some diving back in the rest of the field, and Caden Tufts, I believe, is around. No, actually, it's a different race car. That was Mike Carlson. Went around in turn 1 with contact from behind. I'm not sure who the car that got into him was. We keep racing, though, and Bladen Edwards now takes 5 laps to go, so the hand off the flag stand is letting him know he's just got 5 more circuits around this place, now 4.5, and he's got this heat race win. But there is also an invert in our feature race. I believe the top 12 being inverted, so he would line up 12th for the 40-lap dash. Here in just a little while. 4 laps to go now. These guys racing past the start-finish line, trying to get all the spots they can, even for bragging rights at this point, really, because the further they move up, the further back they will start in the race.
And we've already seen the negative side of that invert with Kelsey Rogers getting caught up in a crash on the opening lap of this race. Best race since the drop of the green has been for second. We continue to follow that battle here, about 1.8 seconds behind the leader in Edwards. Now looking out from behind Tim Knott's car as they head down the back straightaway. It's been Whiting still behind him. Matt Vade peeking inside and outside with the red nose on his 4th place running effort. And Grant Brown is still rounding out your top 5 as we have 2 laps to go on Edwards in Heat 1.
It is looking at this battle for second and third right here. It is just getting heated up. You know, you see Bladen Edwards is pulled away by over 2 seconds. He's actually coming to take the white flag, but we're still watching this battle. You see he takes the white flag. Nothing going on in front of him, but this battle behind him now for the 4th spot is really heating up. You see Matt Vade and Grant Brown. There's a little contact coming out of 2.
A little bit of contact down the backstretch, but out of turn number 4 for the final time in our first heat of 2. Bladen Edwards will win heat race number 1. Tim Knott 2nd place. See the rest race back to the line behind. Michael Whiting in 3rd. Matt Vade makes it into 4th. Grant Brown in 5th. And Jim Foose ends up in 6th spot, it looks like. Again, the whole top 12 being inverted. That means he should start 2nd place. When it's all said and done, we go to the grid for our feature race this evening for the All-American Dash. Getting ready to go into heat race number 2. Eric, how about you lead us down through our top 10?
Well, we already had a very electric first heat. Let's see how they're going to line up for heat number 2. Mitch Brown's going to inherit the pole by virtue of the invert. He'll be leading us down for green for 15 laps, with Brett Hahn in car 71 up outside of row number 1 in 2nd. Moving back now to road number 2, the number 99 of Anthony Pelicans going to slot 3rd, and Greg Evans was one of the most dominant drivers in his particular series and league, collecting multiple wins along the way, is going to start the deuce in 4th position. Back to row number 3. Inside and 5th is going to be that of Nick Fleury in car 25, and the 07 of Caleb Nelson, who logged a lot of practice time, actually qualified 2nd, is going to start back in 6th. Taking us back now to row number 4, and on the inside will be Nick Brand in car number 17. Outside, the number 24 of Alan Young in 8th. And the rest of the top 10, and this the 2nd heat race of 2, is going to be Daniel Gutierrez in car 08, and the 84 of Woody Mahan is going to round out your top 10.
Rounding out the rest of the field in row 6, we have the inside of the 111 of Brandon Hughes, and to his outside we have the 19 of Lowell Jewell, and then rounding out in 13th on row 7, we have the 04 of Mark Myers.
Once again, 13 cars ready to go at it for just 15 laps in now our 2nd heat on the evening. So since we've lost one heat race because we didn't have quite the full turnout that we might have been hoping for, we then get 15, and 15 makes 30. 40 laps later makes 70 laps that we get to go racing this evening, all told. And we've already got 15 out of the way, means we have 15 more right here. Then we'll have a little bit of a warm-up and 40 laps for the All-American Dash. The field rolls by in turns 3 and 4, and Mitch Brown ready to start this 2nd heat. You see everybody getting ready to get up all over his back end, and again, the fastest qualifier among these guys, starting 6th place. Watch that 07 car come up through this top 5.
Green flag is up, and we saw in heat number 1, the outside lane prevailed. Thus far, Mitch Brown on the bottom, as we have one car get sideways off 2, appears to have the edge in 3. Fighting back up on the top side, though, in the battle for the lead as we continue to run side by side is Hahn, and they're door-to-door in turn 1 for the top spot on lap 2.
You see Anthony Pelican fall back a few spots. He's actually getting almost getting door to door with Nelson there. You see Greg Evans coming up into the mix. They're still side by side out of turn 4 across the stripe for the lead.
Whole field rushing by into turn 1, and Mitch Brown just still trying to work that bottom side. In a 15-lap sprint like this, he doesn't have to worry about the repercussions if he were to keep racing on those tires. But even now, the car slides up on entry to 3, and Greg Evans looked down to the bottom side. He's been much more tidy down on that yellow line, and he's starting to race pretty hard to get to the inside of Brett Hahn. That would be for second place if he can single out that 71 car. But if Greg gets to racing that 71, then he has to worry about the 51 taking off. Now the 71 has the edge on the top side of the racetrack. So this mixing bowl is high bank mixing bowl, certainly playing favorites to the outside line, and there goes Hahn to the top spot as Brown is quick to get above Greg Evans. That is all for second on back.
Yeah, it looked as though once we saw Brown lose the lead, he elected to move up to the top side because he saw how well Brett Hahn was able to make it work for him to hold the lead. Now is he going to be able to fend off Greg Evans at the stripe? Evans had a half car length advantage into the first corner, runs a little bit wide with Brown trying to keep the nose up top, but Greg Evans going to take second spot away. He leaves the door open for Brown to try to bounce back, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. It's Evans moving up the second, and here comes Nelson, who was the second fastest qualifier in qualifying earlier today. Already +2 in this heat race, and as we approach halfway, he's running fourth.
Yeah, he's definitely made up, I believe, 2 spots, so he's making a run for that. You see him going down on the inside, trying to run up behind Mitch Brown in that 51 machine. Anthony Pelican straight to his outside. Almost looked like he made some contact there with the outside wall. You see Caleb Nelson just running that yellow line, scraping the apron a little bit, so that's definitely not what you want to do. It's going to upset the car. We're actually on board with Alan Young right now, that 24 machine. You're seeing how close and how low to the ground these guys are. And just bumping in. We actually have Nelson down on the apron. I don't know if he's just had some issues or hit the wall or just trying to fall back, but here we are back to our leader, Brett Hahn. He's taking lap number 10.
Brett Hahn still leading the way. Greg Evans not far behind, but at this stage in this 15-lap heat, it's going to be tough for the number 2 car to work up there and try and race Brett Hahn for this heat race win, especially with Mitch Brown breathing down his neck. So I think at this point, really have the running order amongst the top 3 unless something really happens. The rest of the top 5 still up for grabs. Anthony Pelican, we've seen him get loose a lot this evening already. Alan Young shortly behind him. Then it's Nick Fleury in 6th spot. Woody Mahan 7th, and Brandon Hughes all racing it out for 7th, 8th, and beyond. Back here at the back end of the top 10. Again, only 13 cars in this heat race, making it feel like it's a field of 40.
And we've already seen a little bit of bad luck come into play. In Heat 1, Kelsey Rogers had problems after starting 6th, was the fastest car in qualifying. Now we saw Nelson pull to the side. He's not going to be able to finish up in a top running position to even benefit from the invert when it comes down to feature time. So far, though, no such problems for that of Brett Hahn, who holds the lead. Second time we've seen the driver who started on the outside of the front row be able to parlay that to the top spot. He's got about a half-second advantage over Evans, who's picked up a few positions from where he started, and Mitch Brown, the pole sitter, rounds out your front 3 as they come to the line with 2 to go.
You see Greg Evans slightly starting to run down that lead of Brett Hahn right now, but I don't think he's got enough time to do so. He's going to get to maybe 0.2 of a second, if that. Actually, he lost a little bit of time going into turn 3. As we're actually taking the white flag, Brett Hahn, all he has to do is make it one more time around to bring home the heat win.
As they race past our speed shot into turn 1, the white flag does fly for Brett Hahn, Greg Evans, Mitch Brown, and the rest of this second heat race of 2. The quick time, number 71, is going to go pretty darn quick. I don't know if he's at quick time. We'll see. And is going to win heat number 2 here in the All-American Dash. Greg Evans, Mitch Brown, Anthony Pelican, Alan Young. The rest of your top 5 in heat number 2. And these guys get a chance to breathe. Again, no transfer spot concerns here. Everybody moves on into the All-American Dash here for 40 laps. Everybody is good to go for tomorrow's race as well. In this race, again, just a quick dash for cash, a chance for these guys to make some extra money and really just have a chance to unload and shake down. I think that's the big thing, is get used to this fixed setup and get ready to go racing for tomorrow. Actually, no, not even a warm-up. We are straight into the race. How about that? Getting these cars turned around very quickly. And Eric, I'll let you go through our top 10 once more.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is spectator's dream. Just go right into the main event, and by virtue of the invert, it's going to be Nick Fleury in car 25, who is going to start on pole, and Jim Foose, who was really quick, may have been playing the invert a little bit, going to line up on the outside in car number 35 in the second spot for this 40-lap dash. Alan Young in car 24 is going to line up inside row 2. Outside is going to be Grant Brown in car 52. He was quick in his second heat, and he'll be rolling off in the 4th position. Back to row number 3. The number 99 of Anthony Pelican's going to be starting in the 5th position, while Matt Vade will be starting car number 8 on the outside in 6th. We take you back a little bit further to row number 4, working our way through some of the drivers who finished further up the running order when they came down to the checkers in their respective heats. Number 51 of Mitch Brown inside of row 4 in 7th, outside the 22 of Michael Whiting in 8th spot. And rounding out your top 10, more front runners in their respective heat races. In fact, it's both runner-ups from heats 1 and 2. Greg Evans in car number 2 in 9th, and the 41 of Tim Knott takes you through your top 10 starters.
Rounded up the 11th through 20th, we have Brett Hahn in that 71 machine and starting 11th. To his outside, we have Bladen Edwards in 12th. 13th, we have Caden Tufts. And to his outside, we have Woody Mann in 14th. 15th, we have Adam Hoglund. In 16th, we have Brandon Hughes. 17th, we have David Patton. In 18th, we have Nick Brand. 19th, we have Ethan Johnson. And 20th, we have Mark Myers.
Starting 21st, it's Mike Carlson. 22nd, it's Lowell Jewell. The final 4 cars starting this race, Jason Stewart and Daniel Gutierrez in 24th. 25th goes to Kelsey Rogers and Caleb Nelson. So from the front to the back here for our feature race, for our Fast 2 qualifiers this evening, that has got to sting for both of them. But they have I shouldn't say a lot of laps, but still a lot of racing to go. Even 40 laps is a lot of racing here at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, getting ready to come out of turn 4 for the final time before lighting these guys up, letting them go green for the All-American Dash. Out of turn 4, Nick Fleury will take us to our green flag. The starter gets this thing going. You see him waving that flag on the flag stand. Jim Foose looking really good into turn 1.
Foose with a bit of a drive off the corner. They might have been contact. He's sideways in front of the pack and tags another car. Big crash on the back straightaway.
Oh my goodness, there's still 3 cars up and over. We're going to get another shot at that. Looks like Jim Foose just maybe got back into gas a little too quick coming out of turn 2. We mentioned, get over in practice that these guys were getting loose out of turn 2, and especially on cold tires like that. That's, you don't want to mash the gas like that. So here you go. Yep, you just see he just gets loose. I don't know if there was really any grip out of that, or if he just got into the throttle too quick. Tags the 24, and just carnage happened underneath that, and just, oh man, lap 1. That's not what you want to see.
And caution laps do not count in this, the All-American Dash. This is likewise to 2008 Dover for the NASCAR Cup Series, I think. This is just the entire track is blocked. There's nowhere to go. This is a parking lot. 2 cars, 3 cars up and over. Well, it looks like the number 2 didn't quite get up and over. I think that was Ethan Johnson coming into frame out of Hudson, North Carolina. These guys... Wow, I've never seen something quite like it on the start of a late model race at Nashville. We're going to take some more looks at this. This is just insane, and just a small little slip up there from Jim Foose, unfortunately, really brings the start of this race to a halt. Thankfully, we don't have to wait on track cleanup, green or red flags or anything like that, but here's another look at things. He just gets a little bit loose out of 2, and the Ohio Law Speedway's number 35 just broadside across the racetrack. There's nowhere to go at that point for the entire field.
And depending on how this race pans out, the move of the race may go to Brett Hahn. He started way towards the middle of the pack thanks to the invert after winning his respective heat race, and he did a great job of navigating his way through that crash, and he's the blue car that is 4th in line. That is where he runs on the racetrack after being one of the last cars to get through the carnage virtually unscathed. So that may be something that helps him work his way towards a little bit of money in the pocket. I believe they got $25 to the winner going to tonight's Dash for Cash recipient, as well as the potential of a lot of momentum heading into tomorrow night's 400-lapper. And after being able to avoid the melee off of turn 2 on the first lap, Hahn is running in 4th. And also Nick Fleury, after starting on pole, looked as though the outside may have had a bit of an advantage off the start. After Foose got sideways, Fleury was able to wiggle his way by cleanly, and he is still the leader. as we will be anticipating a restart here, hopefully in about 2 laps time.
Yeah, you mentioned, the guys that come away unscathed will definitely have the benefit. In the real world, yes, that would be the thing. But, on iRacing, some guys have quick repairs, but in here they don't have any quick repairs. So, getting through that wreck with no damage is most definitely going to help these guys, that are up front with no damage be in contention because, as we saw, about 3/4 of the field has some sort of damage from that wreck. So this will be very, very interesting to see how some of these cars that have damage drive and, just how these guys play out, since we're only going to take lap 2.
Again, caution laps not counting, so that's why we're still on lap 2, even though we've turned about 5 caution laps here in this, our first yellow of the All-American Dash, presented by Patriot Media and Marketing Services. Getting ready to come out of turn number 4, looking for the green flag and hoping to keep this one green for a bit longer. That was an early start there from the 25 of Nick Fleury, and he is really checked out already. Anthony Pelican, Mitch Brown, they're side by side, and they're racing out of turn 2.
Thought we were going to talk about Pelican maybe having the edge as we got a car scrubbing the wall just behind him in turn 2. He's going to slot down in the second spot. New runner-up is the 51 of Mitch Brown, with Brett Hahn trying to work the outside of a couple of cars. That's a pair of heat race winners battling for position off into the first turn. The 78 of Bladen Edwards not so lucky to get through that wreck without any cosmetic damage. You see the front nose of that car tore up just a little bit. Hahn will get back to fourth spot, and Brown is starting to close in on the leader, Fleury, as we got a caution on the racetrack, and it's trouble on the backstretch.
Yeah, looks like the 38 machine, that would be David Patton. Not quite sure what happened to him. We're going to get a look at that. Looks like he's coming out of turn 4 across the stripe. And checked up and had some contact help going around there. So that's unfortunate for him. 2 incidents within the first couple laps. We're going to get another look at that there.
This is from the nose end of Mike Carlson's machine, the contact anyway, out of turn 2. And you'll see Patton just gets a bit loose. I think maybe four-wheel slide and has to check up a little bit out of the corner. Might have even gotten tight. We'll see exactly what happens here. We'll see how the car is kind of pitched and goes up the racetrack. Yeah, four-wheel slide gets very loose. Oh, and just barely gets tagged as he was trying to save that car. Nowhere for Carlson to go at that point, of course, because he's got a spinning car on his windshield. So very tough to try and work through something like that where you've got a car just absolutely getting sideways and having to jump way out of the throttle, maybe even jump on the brakes there to try and save his race car. So nothing Mike did wrong there, just unfortunately gets into the back of David Patton, sends him around, but a much smaller and a much easier caution to take there on what was that, lap, well, it's only lap 3 actually, at 40. So still a long ways to go for these guys, but getting some of these laps out of the way.
And hats off to our production team for giving us that look inside of Carlson's car at speed, because it actually really allows you the opportunity to understand just how rough this track can be and why some of these guys are having such trouble by themselves, especially on the exit of turn number 2. You have to be sure you're dialed into the handle of these super late model cars, because it's very easy to upset the apple cart on the back end. And sometimes when you do get out of shape, like we saw the number 38 just do in Patton to cause this last yellow, you don't have a lot of real estate to gather it back in. Unfortunately for him, Carlson was just about one car lane too far further forward, and that's all it took to send him around and bring out the second yellow of the race. But still, a long way to go. This race panning out the way that I think we would figure a Dash for Cash would at Nashville. And we'll see now if Fleury's going to be able to get one of those spectacular restarts here relatively shortly, with a new runner-up in Mitch Brown up alongside, with the restart coming in what we hope to be about a lap and a half.
Yeah, you mentioned, getting you got to be on your toes with these kind of cars. Super late models are kind of their own beast. I'd say they're kind of similar to a legend car, but not really. These things are really they're loose. They've got a lot of power under the hood, and you just got to really be prepared to what's going to happen. And then you come to a track like Nashville, that's kind of its own beast. So then you got to worry about 2 different things at the same time. So trying to get that under your belt but as well as trying to get the track under your belt as well. You're taming 2 beasts at the same time, trying to get one accomplishment, and it's just really hard to do. And these guys are, we saw in the heat racing, they're doing good at it, but we'll see more of it tomorrow.
Out of turn number 4, we'll get this thing restarted once more, and there they go. 25, Nick Fleury leads us across the start-finish line, and they're racing for second on back. Pelican down to the bottom side. Brown working the top side here out of turn number 2. Brown, I think, has the advantage for sure.
Yeah, it looked as though that Nick Fleury has perfected the art of the restart so far here at this point in the weekend, but we got a great battle, double wide for about 2 rows deep, with Mitch Brown trying to make the top lane work on Pelican, and Brett Hahn's going to try to follow him through as well to see if he can get up to third. Is the door going to stay open for Hahn off turn 2? It is. He's up alongside the number 99 at the end of the back straightaway. It's Hahn on the outside in the blue car, Pelican on the bottom in the green and black machine, and that's the race for a third spot, and Hahn is going to take it away as they approach turn 1.
You see further on back behind them around that 2 machine of Greg Evans. They're side by side there, 36. Kelsey Rogers back up in the mix, up into the 8th spot after that, and we have a caution on the racetrack.
David Patton involved again, also Nick Brand. Looks like Brandon Hughes around as well in the backstretch. So a lot happening again out of turn 2, the trouble spot. All 3 incidents so far, minus that incident to start off heat number 1. Have happened in turn number 2, rather. Everything happening in turn number 2. I think that's exactly what we can expect tomorrow night as well. Oh, it looks like Grant Brown has tagged Jim Foose, and it was just on from there. So a bad night gets worse here for the number 35 car of Jim Foose. And it looks like this time he was just the passenger. I guess you could say he was the passenger earlier when he got loose as well, but this time he at least has help.
Yeah, we mentioned, how some of the damage could be impacting the way that some of these cars are handling, some of which are already on edge. We're going to get another look at this incident here in turn number 2. And you see Brown just down to the inside, may not have been totally there, and multiple cars getting caught up in this. Watch that 111 with a hard shot in the wall in turn number 2. That's Brandon Hughes, who went on the 2-wheel climb at the exit of the corner. He appears to have taken on the most damage in that incident. Fortunately, though, was able to drive away. But again, third caution in this, just a 40-lap event. Again, caution laps not counting, and you're on board with Hughes. Oh, just a huge shot on the right front. And that will put us under the yellow for the third time, and also gives us a chance to kind of talk about one thing that Trey Patton was saying before we went to the yellow. You brought up Kelsey Rogers. After starting last in the field, the people who put this race together over at ASRS, they offered up a shotgun challenge for the winner of this race if they're willing to start last in the All-American 400. It looks as though Rogers getting a little bit of a rehearsal for that potentially if Kelsey can climb all the way up to the front.
Yeah, so far, he started 25th. He's currently, according to this, says he scored in 9th. But, we have got a lot left in this race. We're only on lap 6 of 40. So he's made up, went up through over half the field, and he's still got 35 laps to get back to the top. So I think he's definitely one of the guys we need to be watching. But, looking here, you see these cars, the 2 car right in front of them, damage. I don't see any damage on that 36.
And you know what? Kelsey Rogers is no stranger to Pit Stop TV and our coverage. If you go back to early 2018, and this is a throwback name for us, the NMNTS, actually Pit Stop TV Super Series featured the number 36 of Kelsey Rogers and many others, but I recall this 36 car. In fact, he was on what is now Whiplash Racing, and he did a hell of a job in that number 36 as well, in all of the NMNTS series, but especially shined in the Super Series on Sunday nights in early 2018. So Kelsey Rogers can certainly get it done in a Super Late model, and I'd like to think that we're his good luck charm, maybe, covering races that he runs might help him out. He is up into, it looks like, 8th place. The position's going to be a little bit weird here under these yellows since we don't have caution laps counting, but under green flag at least, they are going to be perfect, and they will work like a charm. Getting ready to come to the, I guess this would be the 4th green flag of the All-American Dash. Nick Fleury has gotten these restarts down pat, and he's going to do so once more. Launches there. Actually not as big of a jump over the rest of the field, but they really kept with him that time. Mitch Brown, Brett Hahn battle into one.
Yeah, Brett Hahn is going to try to make the bottom lane work as they come off turn 2, with Mitch Brown hanging tough on the outside in the 51. They're still side by side for second spot, but as you mentioned, Andrew, not the best of restarts that we've seen out of Fleury so far tonight. He's had a lot of practice at him, to say the least. But just behind him, as we look back here from the rear bumper of Nick Fleury's car, are a couple of drivers who have already had success tonight in their respective heat races, and they're still battling for second spot in 3 and 4.
There's a massive pile of about 5 or 6 cars, I think, that happened there. That's why we're under caution. Didn't get a good glimpse of that, so we're going to take a look at that. Here we go. Going into turn 1, looks like the
Ethan
08
Johnson gets into the 08 here. Sorry, but David Gutierrez, a passenger for this one, and David Patton up there with Jim Foose as far as bad nights tonight, involved in another one. But Hudson, North Carolina's Ethan Johnson. He scored as the 102, but he's in the number 2, I guess, to separate the 2 of Greg Evans from the 2 of Ethan Johnson here. And you can see it in post there. We'll watch it as it happens again here from the right front of Ethan Johnson's machine. Certainly not how you want to get into an evening like this, and actually gets into the 08. Again, you'll see it here into turn 1. Gutierrez up ahead, just a bit of a slower entry, and yeah, Johnson, man, he really lunged from a ways back. I'll watch this from one of our TV cameras as well, because he really made a big dive into one there, Eric.
Yeah, it looked as though, I believe that Gutierrez had the spot, per se, as they were approaching turn number 1. I mean, he's clear there. And we're going to watch Johnson here just try to get back to the bottom. Gutierrez may have left the door open a little bit too long, but nevertheless, Johnson came from a long ways back to tag the rear bumper there of Gutierrez's car to trigger that. Starting to run out of page here on my whiteboard. I believe this would be our 4th or 5th caution of the night so far, in a 40-lap dash for cash. And there you see 4 cautions so far. Of course, caution laps not counting, so that's why the lap counter says 0. But it's still early on in this one, and it's been physical. And one of the points that I brought up coming into this race, Trey, I wonder, considering the fact that a lot of these cars and these drivers are going to be on track for the big event tomorrow for 400 laps, are you keeping tally as a racer as to who got into you at what point? Or are these things that you may carry over to tomorrow night, even though it's a much different style of competition?
I mean, before going into this dash, I would have said yes. But now that we've seen what happened, just a lap 1 incident, everyone's kind of damaged. So everyone's car is not, up to par on what you'd want it to do. So, everyone's kind of fighting it. But, I mean, I'd say to some degree, yeah, you would kind of keep in mind. But I'd say, it's kind of unfair to kind of base it off of, not everyone having a, equal car right now, versus everyone at the start having one and staying clean. But I'd say to an extent, yeah, you want to remember that, but, tomorrow's a fresh start. Just go in, stay calm, cool, and collected, and you'll just figure it out as you go.
So Hudsonville, Michigan's Nick Fleury is still leading this one, and we have our entry list. So I want to start mentioning a lot of the hometowns as we can. Another Michigan driver in Brett Hahn is outside, Brighton, Michigan, for the number 71 of Brett Hahn. So Michigan drivers maybe have something here. So if the NASCAR Cup Series ever adds Nashville Fairgrounds, the field might have to watch out for Brad Keselowski. Let's just hold the hope that they will at some point bring the Cup Series back here, even the Xfinity Series or something, just to bring cars back to Nashville Fairgrounds in any capacity is a big feat. And while we're doing so virtually this evening, bringing the American Sim Racing Series original online All-American 400, and we're back green flag racing here in the All-American Dash as well. Now on to lap 9 of 40.
Boy, you just have to be amazed at the restarts in which Nick Fleury has been able to put down here so far tonight. Each and every time clear to the lead on the bottom of the racetrack. That's been a rarity as far as the theme of the night leading up to this feature event. Now he's got about a car length advantage over Brett Hahn, who has cemented his place in second, with Mitch Brown trying to get back up to the back bumper of the 71, running in third. Behind them, you saw Greg Evans get knocked up the racetrack, but the top 3 are starting to tighten things up. As we click more laps off here under green, we're completing now lap 10, working lap number 11. Brett Hahn is there, about a half car length off the backside of Fleury for the lead.
You see here we're following that 51 machine of Mitch Brown as he's trying to run down that 71 machine of Brett Hahn. Further on back, we see that 84 machine that is Woody Mayhem. He's battling Kelsey Rogers. We actually have a caution on the racetrack. Looks like the 17, and
oh boy,
I don't know if
Jim Foose again. His night just cannot turn around. That Ohio's Law Speedway is number 35. Not having a good run of it here at Nashville. And this is the first time the original online All-American 400 has been at Nashville Super Speedway in many a year, because they've been on iRacing for quite a few years now after starting on NASCAR Racing 2003. And of course, a lot of original iRacing members will remember that game. And yeah, I mean, this is really cool to be able to bring these guys back to Nashville. Oh, this involves Grant Brown up in the front, and then, wow, a secondary incident entirely. Grant Brown, I think, just gets into the back. Or no, that was, I think David Patton might have gotten to the back end of the 35. And yeah, he was racing with David Patton there. We're going to have to really step back and try and diagnose all of this.
Yeah, it looks as though the number 19, that's low. Yeah, that is Lowell Jewell out of Florence, Kentucky, who got a little bit out of shape coming out of 4. And just as we've seen many times tonight, you can get loose and save it, but when there's another car about a car length or so off your back bumper, you just don't have the room you need to gather it back in. In this case, he came off the wall and came right across the bow of the number 52 of Grant Brown. And that's what triggered this accident, at least the first portion of it. Then we saw a couple of drivers who've had terrible luck here tonight. The 38 of David Patton out of Schererville, Illinois, as well as Jim Foose, who we've been talking about, the racer out of Parma, Ohio, who have both been involved in multiple incidents here tonight, the majority of which not of their own doing. You see there Patton just trying to find a clear path by, and unfortunately, Foose was still up alongside, at least with the right front to the left rear quarter panel between those two. And that's what triggered the second part of this incident to put us under the yellow flag yet again.
Yeah, the thing about, short track racing's fun, but I'm going to reiterate on what you said earlier about, just having tight quarters racing when it comes to these things, like having, him come off the wall like that and then not having, much room to go down the track to save it because somebody was already there. It sucks, being behind that because, you don't have time to react to it because, you have people trailing in behind you and, it just triggers an incident, like we saw on lap number 1. Just tight quarters racing, not much time to do much, and, it just ends up being caution after caution. But nonetheless, we still have a lot of racing left, and then I just hope this gets figured out for tomorrow, and then we have a good, clean race tomorrow.
This is a race that tends to go green flag once we get into the 400, but we have to get that far first. And these guys, certainly, I think, wanting to make this dash turn into an endurance race so far. But I think once the money is less of a concern for these drivers, once it's 400 laps, literally 10 times what we're running tonight, I think these guys will calm down a little bit and get into a more settled state, if you will, and just get ready to run those 400 laps, because you're not going to do it in any good pace if we have a repeat of this right here. So I think these drivers will realize that they've got to clean things up for tomorrow, and it's really not even anything egregious. It's just been little nicks here and there between drivers just getting loose. So really, it's not necessarily calming down. It's just getting used to these cars and track, like Trey Patton mentioned earlier. But this is a great way for them to do it as well. Green flag once more, race off into turn number 1 on now lap 13 of 40.
And just as we've seen all night long, once we come back down for a restart, Nick Fleury is able to get out to a healthy advantage, but Brett Hahn had a great run off turn 2, closes up to within less than a car length, now on the back bumper of Fleury for the race lead, and trouble in turn 4, a multi-car crash in turns 3 and 4 is going to put us under the yellow flag yet again.
Yeah, it looked like the start of that looked like the 24 of, I believe that is Alan Young, got tagged, and then, everyone else just kind of piled in. We will get a look at that. Here we go, coming out of turn 2, going down the back stretch into turn 3. Yeah, the 102, Ethan Johnson tagged the 24, and then as you see, everyone just piling. Jim Foose also involved, David Patton in that, in one car almost up and over.
Yeah, that was a 78 of Bladen Edwards, who won heat number 1. And it seems like once they make that contact as well, they all just kind of freeze, almost just like taking a breath, a deep breath after that massive hit for Jim Foose. Man, I'm thankful that was a virtual car and that was a virtual concrete wall he just hit, because that would not look good if that would not be good if that was a real wall that he had to hit right there. That would definitely be hurting in the morning, and we'll leave that at that. Thankfully, again, these are pixels these guys are hurting, not themselves, because that's just a hellacious impact. I want to go on board, actually, since we can, without cringing too badly here. This is Jim Foose, and he's been involved, I think, in 4 or 5 of these now, 6 yellows, I believe. Yeah, and I think only the first one was his fault as well, where he just got loose out of turn 2, and unfortunately that has set the pace for things, and he just... Man, that is a heavy, heavy hit, especially with Bladen Edwards in his right side when he hits that wall, Eric.
Yeah, it looked as though he might have thought he had an avenue by on driver's right getting up to the outside, and Bladen Edwards was there. Remember, Edwards, one of our heat race winners, he sustained damage in the big crash on the first lap, which kind of set him behind the 8 ball. Trying to work his way back up through the running order. And granted, this is, a prelude event to the big annual All-American 400 that we'll be having right here on the platform tomorrow. It was for fun. There is a little bit of cash on the line, but I have to imagine that series organizers are going to be taking a closer look at some of this, hoping that this is not a sign of things that are to come here tomorrow. A totally different layout. Of course, no additional tires were available in the pits for this race according to the printout. Tomorrow is going to be a totally different set of circumstances, with tires being available all throughout the 400-lap contest. But nevertheless, I don't think anybody anticipated this rough and rugged of a start, as we've only gotten through a little bit more than 25% of this race. Things haven't really changed that much up at the front of the pack, but hopefully we can get in some sort of rhythm here to get an idea of who the driver is going to be to beat, not just tonight, but tomorrow as well, with the restart now just around the corner. And Nick Fleury has been phenomenal on these restarts all night long.
Yeah, Nick Fleury is definitely one of the guys to look out for. You have Brett Hahn on his outside. But, if, we mentioned, the whole thing with going on tonight, it's been a rough start. But things are going, if I'm one of these drivers, I'm just going to blame all the angst on Friday the 13th. It's been a hectic day, hectic race. It's going on. Just blame it on that.
Somehow I hadn't thought of that one yet, and I'm glad you did, because that, what, we'll run with that as our excuse here. It's not getting used to a racetrack. It's Friday the 13th, especially in a year like 2020. Out of turn number 4, we'll get this thing back going, and we'll just let the engines speak here for a second. We'll listen to these guys up around Nashville Fairgrounds. Well, you see the incident there in the background as these guys got back green flag racing, and it's another big one. Down the backstretch, Grant Brown involved, along with many, many more here into turn number 3. Try to let you guys listen to some of the engines here, and it looks like possibly the 3 car again involved, along with the 52 of Grant Brown. These guys definitely, I'm glad they're not having to pay for these afterwards, because I don't know if they'd get these cars turned back around in time for tomorrow's race. Mike Carlson was the number 3 car involved in this one, and we'll, of course, get a look back at what happens here out of turn number 2. And I wonder if somebody got loose again. Oh, wow. That was the 24 of Alan Young. Almost going up, and he's on his 2 left wheels there for a second, like many, many more this evening. And we'll take a look back at what happens here between Carlson and Brown.
Yeah, and as they come off at turn number 2, hard to tell from that angle. It looked like Brown came off the wall a little bit, might have been a bit loose, and came down in the path to Carlson, who then has to do a great job avoiding the spinning car in turn 4, which is once again David Patton. As it appears, Patton's bad luck streak is continuing through these cautions. You're on board here with Carlson off at 2. Oh, I see what happened there. It was the 102 that got into the wall. Looks as though that Grant Brown tried to react after Ethan Johnson scraped the fence, and when he darted left, the 3 car Mike Carlson was there. Looks as though that I'll chalk that one up to a bit of a racing incident. But what happened to Patton here as they come into turn number 3? He's well ahead of the accident. Tim Knott looking down low. And there's your answer. A little bit of bumper tag. Oh, and he caught the attenuator at the pit entry. And the rest of the field comes rolling by.
So we see the domino effect coming into play here once again here at Nashville Fairgrounds. Lots of caution laps here tonight. I believe that is our, 8th caution of tonight. We're on lap 14. Still a lot of racing left. Definitely makes 7th or 8th caution. But like I said, we got tons of racing left. And, it makes it interesting, too, because a lot of these guys have damage and, up front, some of these guys don't. So, like, some of the guys that don't have damage, you see Nick Fleury and Vaughn up front. And you have Mitch Brown, Pelican, and Kelsey Rogers, who we were talking about earlier, has made it up to the 6th spot.
And we just hope these guys can get into a bit of a run. I mean, it's been one lap go and, rack them up once more. For most of this race, I think we're on our 7th caution so far, and these guys certainly, I think, falling victim to, like you said, Trey, Friday the 13th in 2020. I don't think anybody was looking forward to Friday the 13th, but, man, it's certainly letting its presence be known this evening, and we'll just have to roll with that. Nick Fleury is our race leader. He's had Brett Hahn along with him for most of this evening. Mitch Brown behind him. Anthony Pelican in 4th place. Woody Mahan in 5th, rather. Kelsey Rogers in 6th. You see Greg Evans there in his wounded number 2 out of Hickory, North Carolina in the 7th spot. Jason Stewart in 8th, and a few more round out our top 10. But we will come back in green flag racing out of turn number 4 once more. And there they go. Nick Fleury, another pretty good restart. But at this point, they've had so many restarts to try and get it right on Nick Fleury. They are sticking with him for the most part. A bit more of a gap that time for Brett Hahn and Mitch Brown to overcome it. They'll be battling out of turn 2.
Yeah, Brett Hahn that time able to use the outside to his advantage again to hold on to second. Surprised, though, that nobody has been able to find what that trick is that Fleury's able to pull on these restarts, but it doesn't take them long to reel him back in. We're watching now Mitch Brown run a little bit wide in 1 and 2, trying to diamond the corner there on corner exit. Big run coming here by Hahn. He's going to peek to the inside for the lead. Fleury's going to shut the door on him, and they're nose to tail off 4 for the top spot.
Nose to tail. We're on board with Vaughn Wright. Now you see he's going to go to the high side in 1 and 2. Mitch Brown following suit. They're going to be side by side at a 2, going down the back straightaway. He might have the advantage with the high line.
Hahn work at the top side. That's exactly what he needed to do. We don't have a cushion to rip on pavement, but if there was, he'd be ripping it right now. Mitch Brown follows him to the outside of Nick Fleury, and that's going to aid both of those cars to get around this 25. So a lead change finally at the top spot, and Mitch Brown is going to follow right through. Anthony Pelican, I think, going to have to do the same, but he's got to be careful of Kelsey Rogers. Meanwhile, a caution out in the back once more, and we'll take a look at what happens here once more at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Alan Young possibly in this one again. We'll see what happens to him. No, actually, I think it was further up than that. And we'll try and find this one. Oh, there it is. Oh, Grant Brown again, this time with a 17 as well, Nick Brand.
Yeah, a couple of drivers we're calling out who have been involved in a handful of these yellow flags tonight. And unfortunately for Grant Brown, he's one of them. Been involved in a number of incidents so far, and we'll keep an eye on him here. 17. Oh, looked as though he might have caught the apron there, Nick Brand. The driver who comes out of Bossier City, Louisiana, caught the apron with the left side tires, upset the car, and the theme of the night has been, you're okay to get away with that if you're in a lonesome practice session or in qualifying, but once you throw more cars out there, you're not going to have all the wiggle room you need to salvage it. And unfortunately, Grant Brown was the car that arrived on the scene, and it was Patton who booted the backside of Brown's car off the corner to send him fully around as well. Let's take one more look at it, Trey, as, boy, it's just been one of those nights. Friday the 13th probably is the best theme that we could lean on for this.
Yeah, you're seeing there, he just gets... I mentioned earlier, touching that apron. You don't want to touch that apron, especially coming out of turn 2. That is the danger zone. This place is so bumpy, somewhat you've seen, just from the hood on board, or even, the car on boards from the cockpit. You can even see it here. These cars are just bumping all over the place. And then once you hit that apron, you're unleveling the car. So it's upsetting it more than the car is already upset to begin with. So you're just making it more loose than it needs to be, and then you're trying to correct it. You're off the gas while the guy behind you is on the gas. And then you see, as you mentioned, Patton behind him just kind of was full in the gas and sent him around. It's a combination that doesn't need to be mixed.
We are coming up to halfway here shortly. Once we go back green flag racing, we'll be on lap 19 of 40. And, I didn't expect this race to go this long, actually. I thought this would be wrapped up by now almost. But we are getting close, and I don't recall the exact time that we went green flag in this one. But these guys had to have a 15-minute time count on this one. So they've got to be careful of how long this race goes, and we may not get to all 40 laps this evening, so that's got to weigh in the minds of these drivers as well. Again, I'm not exactly certain of when we'll hit that limit, but it's just like, actually, here's a good one for us, Eric. If you recall, if you watched the Summer Shootout at Charlotte, they have, 20-minute time caps or 25? They've got to get the race in within a certain amount of time, and if they don't, quite simply, they get handed an orange flag, and that's the next flag ends the race. That's it. So if you have another caution, that is it. It's not quite the same here. They get to race basically until that time, and then if they hit that time under green even, they get a white flag. The race is going to be over shortly thereafter, so we'll be coming to the green flag once more to hopefully avoid getting to that time limit. Again, 50 minutes for 40 laps, and I didn't think we'd be talking about it this evening, but we're getting close to that point. Brett Hahn, your race leader. Nick Fleury, second place. It's Mitch Brown, Anthony Pelican, Kelsey Rogers, Jason Stewart, Greg Evans, Matt Vade, Mark Myers, Jim Foose. Your top 10, and we go back racing on lap 19 of 40.
Looks like Brett Hahn took a page out of Fleury's book there when he came down for that restart. Just a masterful launch on the bottom of row one, and he now is out to about a 4-car length lead as Mitch Brown is trying to edge ahead of Fleury, and he's going to take that second spot away on the low side as we got a car hard on the wall behind him on the front stretch. Battle for second continues on, and the caution flag is out yet again. That was a brutal hit on the inside wall. You see a couple of the cars that were left behind involved in the accident. This is the 22 of Michael Whiting, who finished well up front in his heat race earlier on tonight. And it looked as though the wreck may have happened up ahead of him. I believe I saw the 102 as one of the first to get involved. And Ethan Johnson, another driver who's been involved in a handful of crashes here on the night. And the 09 car also involved. Trying to get a positive ID on that machine. Trey, not sure if you want to help me out with that one there. It looks as though it's the 109, perhaps.
Let's see, I'm looking for it myself. Maybe the 08 that you're looking at. We'll see how it all happens here. I was looking at my production tools. We're watching the 22 of Michael Whiting, and yeah, it happens up ahead, and that was I recall the car you were talking about. We got to find which car that is.
Very bizarre, just to back you guys up. It looks like it's painted up as a 09 or a 109, but it's not being scored as such. So that's the reason for my confusion. Sorry to throw you guys for that loop.
Could that be what's scored as the 60? Yes, okay. It's scored as the 60. It's Adam Hogland. And, yeah, I think we might get that one sorted out by tomorrow night. But he's got Patriot on his hood, so I guess that's going for him here. We'll watch what happens down the front stretch. Ethan Johnson here as well. So a couple of guys that are getting scored as separate numbers. And, Ethan, that might just be an entire racing. I don't know if that's on either one of those drivers. Unfortunately, though, when it comes down to it, and this is the 8th or 9th yellow flag of the race, you start to look at that one with distaste, but if that happens on its own, I think that's just a racing incident. That's just a product of these guys going at it here. We'll try and get another look at it here. Of course, the grandstands block it. We'll find another look at this. This will work here momentarily. So, yeah, again, and actually, I think even Johnson had gotten into the 78 of Bladen Edwards. So these guys really getting rough and ready back here in the rest of the field, and you'll see Hogland and Johnson's contact, and yeah, I mean, it's so tough. I mean, Hogland might have pinched him, and Johnson might have come up just a tiny bit. So meeting in the middle, and that's another yellow flag.
And at least all of our fans watching can see that car is painted up for the 09, and that I'm not losing my marbles on this Friday the 13th. But nevertheless, it is another caution, and I fully agree with you there, Andrew. I think any other set of circumstances, we would chalk that up to a racing incident. And I would also want to give the early award for save of the race so far to Edwards, one of our heat race winners earlier on tonight, after he went for that slide there in the corner just before the crash. And Bladen Edwards is going to live to fight another lap as he tries to work his way further up the running order with time ticking away. on what, as you mentioned, is supposed to be 40 laps or an originally planned 50-minute time limit. We're not exactly sure where we may fall on that time limit per se as of yet. But if I were a betting man, I would have lost out big time. Never would have thought that we would have flirted with that. And it appears, in fact, possible as we are inching towards halfway in this, a Dash for Cash event. And what a night. We still got a little more to go.
You want to talk about being a betting man, as we're actually going to take the green flag here momentarily. Looking up from further back in the field, Kelsey Rogers has made his way up to the 4th spot, as we're going to see Brett Hahn actually take the green flag here for lap 21.
These guys racing into the banking there, the 18-degree banking all around this speedway. And, not a great start there for Nick Fleury. He's down to 4th place as Rogers races on by him. So Kelsey Rogers, as you mentioned, Trey, making his way back through this field into 3rd place now, as Brett Hahn is going to have company from Mitch Brown shortly. And we've been looking at these two cars a lot this evening, but always in 2nd and 3rd. Now they're up a spot each and suddenly racing for what could be the win here in 18 laps time, as we're going to come around to complete lap number 22. That said, we still got a lot of reason to go, as we've been proven so far just to get to this point now on lap 23 of 40.
And a lot of differing storylines that have helped us get there. Brett Hahn, one of the heat race winners on the night, leading. We'll drop back here as we watch the number 99 of Pelican trying to work his way around Fleury, the early race leader. As Fleury elects to take the high side, Pelican flirting with the apron of the racetrack off 4, looking down to the bottom to try to follow the front 3 as they put a little bit of a gap on this battle, as the best race is for 2nd. Brown under fire from Rogers, who continues his rocketing pathway from the back of the field up towards the front, and he's trying to get a fender up inside on the front stretch.
We're on board with Kelsey Rogers right now. You saw him sending it down to the bottom, kind of painting that yellow line, if you will, trying to get that run going down the corner. You're going to see it here. He's going to try and get to that door, that 51 of Mitch Brown. He's going to get to it, but not quite have the run out of the corner. We have a caution on the racetrack.
That we do, and this time, hey, there's the 109. It's a 60 if you turn it over, I suppose. Thankfully, I don't think he's been turned over just yet. Adam Hoagland turned around at turn number 2, and we'll take a better look back at this one here momentarily. And this is going to be another big incident here for what is visually the 109. Scored as a 60 car. Looks like he has help from behind. Woody Mahan is back here and some others. Gutierrez, Tim Knott up here. And, they're 3 wide, and that's where it all happens. Tim Knott actually comes down the racetrack a bit into the 60 car of Hoagland. They all go for a bit of a mess down the back stretch, and unfortunately, all too familiar so far this evening.
And you bring up a great point of if that thing does get turned over, it will read as a 60. And at this point, I'm not ruling it out just yet. But you saw Knott kind of wash way wide on the entrance to turn number 1 in one of those replays and just put him in a precarious spot. Not a lot of racing room. We talk about how difficult turn 2 is by yourself, let alone when you're double wide or even 3 wide as they try to be there off the corner. And it brings the yellow flag out once again, and it will slow this field. And it will also slow what was turning into a great battle for 2nd between Mitch Brown and Kelsey Rogers. We mentioned the fact that you look at the top 3 drivers and how their night is unfolded. Brett Hahn, one of the heat winners, thus he had to start mid-pack, was able to work his way through that opening lap melee very well to the point where he didn't sustain any damage. Mitch Brown, also one of those drivers who just got through the big crash because he ran well in his heat race. And Kelsey Rogers, who was swept up in a lap 1 incident in his heat race after being the fastest qualifier, had to start last in this event, also got through the carnage in turn 2, and has methodically worked his way up with an opportunity to win if we could see this race through to its conclusion, and currently running in 3rd. So a lot of different storylines despite all the incidents that we have had. And let's also not forget Nick Fleury, who has led the most laps up to this point in the race and has been very strong on restarts. And we'll see if those 4 will be able to settle it amongst themselves, as it looks as though Mitch Brown may be having a little bit of latency issues. Hopefully that'll get rectified before the green flag, but a lot still to watch as this race is yet to be decided.
We have 8 minutes left on the time clock, so you want to talk about methodically working his way to the front. He doesn't have much time to do so, especially if we have another caution come out on our hands. So if I am Kelsey Rogers, I'm going to try and watch that 71 machine when he hits that pedal, and I'm going to try and follow him, be as close as I can to try and get to that front so you can get that incentive. And then I expect if Kelsey Rogers gets to that incentive that he will take that shotgun challenge tomorrow.
Well, you know what this does give us, guys, is a shootout to the finish. Not that we've needed it. Oh, and there you see Mitch Brown going to the back of the field, and they're going to extend this caution flag one more time around the speedway. This is certainly, well, we've been kind of trying to work around these cautions and find good ways to say it. It is dragging on, but it's given us a great race. And when these guys are green flag racing, man, this is second to none almost in terms of short track racing with super late models especially. It's sometimes pretty tough in 2020 to bring super lates anywhere in the country at this point and have amazing racing, but there's still a lot of different places you can do it. I think having been to Jennerstown, that's one place on my list. Nashville is going up there pretty highly, at least virtually. And it's definitely giving us great racing, and it's giving us one for the highlight reels as well. We're going to have a lot to take away from in this one, and a lot to, I guess, take into tomorrow night as well. Not just highlight reels, but just a little bit more knowledge going into tomorrow's original online All-American 400. Say that one 5 times fast. So certainly, I think a lot happening this evening, a lot to unpack, just like this track in general, coming to the iRacing.com service. And the shootout we're about to have for the last 15 laps of this one. It's lap 25 coming to lap 26 once we take the green flag, and Brett Hahn off and away very quickly. These guys now have about 7 minutes to go, maybe even under that, so they've got to get these laps in quick.
We'll see if they're able to make their way down off of turn number 2 cleanly after Rogers has slotted back into second spot. Now with a chance to go mano-a-mano on Brett Hahn, who runs a little bit wider line through 3 and 4, and Rogers has closed up the gap. Now about a quarter of a car length, the race for the lead, and nearly into the backside of Hahn as they went off into turn number 1 that time. While the race for third is hot and heavy, the race for the lead nose to tail. Rogers looking low, the door is left open, but he can't quite get up alongside just yet as they come back to the line.
Looking further on back, the caution's out. I saw that happen further on back. The 08 car actually just did a complete flip. I was wondering if the caution was going to come out for that, but they seem to get back going. But as we're going to get a look at that now, you see David Patton hit the inside wall there. Unfortunate for him tonight. We're going to get a look at this incident. Looks like coming out of turn 4 down the front stretch. Turn 1 and 2 has been the danger zone, as we've mentioned and seen all night tonight. See, the 52 gets a little loose, the 08 gets loose and just takes a ride right here. Actually, no, maybe not.
Doesn't quite do a whole flip, but certainly gets up in the air and makes things spectacular, almost like a ballerina up there in the air, pirouetting a little bit. And we'll see this once more. It's just one of those incidents where things check up, and one driver gets loose, maybe he doesn't feed the throttle quite as much as somebody behind him, and they meet in the middle. Unfortunately, see Greg Evans in that, Hogland in that, in the number 60, and of course David Patton as well. So certainly just, man, it's been a wild ride, almost as wild as that one for David Gutierrez. We opened this night of racing up, though, with a really wild ride for Kelsey Rogers, going to the very back of heat number 1 after qualifying first place, and he has since worked his way back up into not only the top 3, but actually second place, was nose to tail with race leader Brett Hahn for a number of laps right there before we went back caution flag. And I mean, we are getting dangerously close to this time limit. He has a chance, though, to get up into first place. If he wins this thing, remember, he has a shot to go for the shotgun challenge put on by Patriot Media and Marketing Services, our sponsor for this evening's All-American Dash, and he can get an extra $25 if he wins tonight and if he takes a challenge and wins tomorrow night.
Yeah, and he's already proven he can pretty much get the job done in a lot less time. He's going to have 400 laps to do it tomorrow. Only had 40 tonight. Looks like we may not even get there. Hopefully he'll get at least one opportunity to try to get up to P1. But we'll see if he'll have anything for Brett Hahn, who was the race leader. Kelsey Rogers, a driver who hails from Rockton, Illinois, driving for Rogers Racing here on the weekend. As we mentioned, fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, caught up in a crash with Jason Stewart in turn 1, lap 1 of his respective heat race, and that's what buried him down in the running order. And I will see if he will get his shot to get one more spot and kick off his weekend with the best momentum possible with a win in this Dash for Cash.
Yeah, the time clock is ticking down. I believe we have 3 minutes left on the time clock, so I believe we'll be able to get these guys racked and stacked one more time, and hopefully we can get to the end.
Yeah, we should be coming to our 1 to green signal from the starter atop the flag stand this time by, but I mean, we're getting close to that time limit, guys. I'm not sure of the exact time to the end here. But these drivers have it. If they hit F1 on their keyboards, they can see exactly how much time they have left to go. And, I mean, they're all aware of it. And at this point, if you're Kelsey Rogers, nothing's methodical anymore. You've got to just go. You've got to find any way you can get by the 71. And if that means putting a bumper to him with 1 second to go in this one, that means putting a bumper on him with 1 second to go. So all bets are off at this point, and I mean, certainly I think all bets were off when he came back from the back of the field. Man, it's just incredible what Kelsey Rogers in the 36 has been able to do, but he still has to go through the 71 car, and Brett Hahn has been good all night long. Nick Fleury up there as well, Anthony Pelican. They restart out of turn number 4. We go back green flag racing. It is now lap 29 of 40.
And Hahn was on the ready. Rogers has to slot back in a second. Pelican third, a little bit loose off the corner in front of the battle behind them. But all eyes are on the front runners as Rogers is trying to close up on Hahn for the lead and the win. He slides off turn 4, and Hahn will lead that lap through.
Looking on the time clock, we have 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Kelsey Rogers trying to do everything he can to get up to Brett Hahn for that win. But if we stay green, we will end under a time limit. Only 10 laps to go left in this thing. They're not going to get it done with laps, but they will get close on time. As you see, Kelsey Rogers getting ever so slightly closer to that back bumper of the 71.
Still racing things out a little further back. We'll check into that battle real quick. Bladen Edwards in the middle of things. Nick Fleury, Matt Vade as well. Matt Vade, a former winner of tomorrow's original online All-American 400s. Look out for the number 8 car to have some speed tomorrow night as well. Jason Stewart, he's behind these guys, and they're racing just inside the top 5, actually to be in the top 5 here between Fleury and Vade as they head down to turn number 3 up ahead. You see Bladen Edwards, Anthony Pelican side by side, but we cannot forget those leaders because Kelsey Rogers has not gone anywhere. Lap 33 now at 40.
And Rogers just praying this thing stays green so that way he has enough time to mount a charge on Hahn, who has been incredible tonight as well. Rogers with a scrub of the wall as he came off 2 that time, sending it in deep into 3 as Hahn runs up the track a little bit. Here comes Rogers for the lead off 4. He gets sideways, but he may have a fender inside in 1.
White flag is out. Here at Nashville Fairgrounds, Kelsey Rogers going to make a run for it here as we're going down into turn 3. I believe the time limit is now up. Race over out of turn 4. Brent Vaughn is going to win here at Nashville.
Brett Hahn with the big win in the All-American Dash. And that 71 car looked good all evening. Didn't think it would come to the time limit here ending for the All-American Dash. It turned into an All-American Endurance race just about between these 26 Super Late models that unloaded this evening. And Brett Hahn ends up in victory lane. The quick time, 71. He unloaded quick. He didn't qualify, I don't think, the quickest of really the bunch that he was racing with. He, I think, was somewhere around the mid-top 10 or so with the 71. When it came down to race pace, certainly had a leg up on everyone, it looked like. And even with Kelsey Rogers breathing down his neck at the 71, held steady, held true, and wins the All-American Dash. So how about that? In circumstances I don't think anybody could anticipate, the 71 going to victory lane this evening and has a chance to go for the Patriot Media and Marketing Solutions Shotgun Challenge tomorrow evening.
And hats off to Kelsey Rogers. I mean, after the race that we saw, how physical it was, how aggressive and abrasive it was, I really thought that Rogers was going to send it in there and perhaps move Hahn up and out of the way on the white flag. Instead, he tried to do it the clean way, and I'm sure that that's something that Hahn is going to remember going into tonight's big race, that if Rogers is going to need a break, Hahn will provide the opportunity, as these two have now penciled themselves in as favorites. In your lead in there, Andrew, I believe he qualified in 10th. Rogers was the quickest, had to start all the way at the top of the pack. Hahn missed the big lap 1. That ended up being a key to, as Hahn was able to fend off Rogers with a final margin of victory just over 1/10 of a second with Matt Vade, your top 3.
Yeah, looking at that last lap battle, I think if they wouldn't have had that time limit in the issue, I think Kelsey Rogers would have had it done. As you mentioned, I thought he was going to send it down in there as well, kind of use the bump and run tactic to get the win there. But that's something that Brett Hahn's going to have to remember tomorrow, is that Kelsey Rogers raced him clean there at the end. So if they come down to it tomorrow, they might have to cut each other a break.
And so that is the conclusion of the All-American Dash, but we still have post-race coverage here up ahead. Do not go anywhere. We'll take a quick little break. We'll try and coordinate the top three for our post-race interviews. Brett Hahn, Kelsey Rogers, Matt Vane to look forward to. We talked to two of those drivers before even unloading here at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Talked to them on Tuesday. To get that article out, you can read it on whiplash-media.com. It's a pretty good read. Read their perspectives going into this evening, and two of them finish up top of the podium here for the All-American Dash. Thank you, firstly, to American Sim Racing Series, and secondly to Patriot Media Marketing Services for bringing us in for this evening, because while it took a little bit longer than expected, it did not disappoint, and I cannot wait to get these drivers' opinions on things. We will step aside and we'll be right back with post-race interviews.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas, and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
The shadows are growing longer, and we have...
After months of quarantine, we're all
We welcome you back to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. It was certainly one heck of an all-American dash. These drivers certainly felt free, both American and free on the racetrack, pretty loose out of these corners. Led to quite a few cautions this evening, Eric, and it was certainly, it wasn't really even a dash. It turned into an all-American endurance race.
So I'm going to be honest. When I saw the itinerary for tonight, 30-minute practice, 2 laps of qualifying, 15-lap heat races, and a 40-lap main event with a 50-minute time limit, I thought for sure that I would on my about maybe third or fourth glass of wine tonight, and I would be getting myself ready for tomorrow night's All-American 400. In no way did the race play out that way. It was pretty much right off the jump when a driver who started on the outside of the front row got caught up in some trouble, spun in front of the pack. It pretty much set the tone for what we were about to see, and that was a race that was in turn decided by that 50-minute time limit. But the good news is the run to the finish was exciting. I mean, we saw Brett Hahn and also Kelsey Rogers, who were 2 of the fastest cars in the field while we were under green flag competition, who also were able to keep their cars relatively clean, go mano a mano for the final 4 or 5 laps or so, and I think that's possibly a prelude to what we're going to have here tomorrow. So it was a little bit rough at times. Once we got in a little bit of a groove, we saw some pretty good racing, and I hope that it is the latter that will be in the spotlight once we come down for the 23rd annual All-American 400 tomorrow night with 400 laps, not just 40, on the docket.
Yeah, after what we saw tonight, especially when we had a green flag run going, the racing itself was absolutely phenomenal. What we saw the last run we had there before the time limit unfortunately hindered the end of this race. Just Brett Hahn and Kelsey Rogers were putting on an absolute show, and I still think if the time limit wouldn't have came into factor, I think we would have had a different outcome of the race. But nonetheless, I expect to see a lot more of that action happening tomorrow night.
Absolutely. A lot to look forward to tomorrow, indeed. Before we get to tomorrow, though, of course, we want to talk to some of our drivers post-race here. We've been trying to get them into the resources to do so. We're going to start off actually in a bit reverse order compared to what we usually do. We're going to bring in third place, Matt Vade, first. And Trey, we'll keep our order, I guess, just reverse it, and I'll hand him over to you.
So Matt Vade, you gridded up 6th place, and you ended up 3rd. So just talk us through that race. I know it was pretty hectic, lots and lots of incidents, and you found yourself coming home P3.
Kind of a survival race tonight. I think just that first lap wreck, it took out a lot of good cars and put a lot of damage on some good cars. So I don't know if we really get a good see of what we're going to look for tomorrow night, for who's going to be the guys to beat. But I think some of the guys that are in that group managed to find their way back forward tonight. So I thought it was all right. The racing itself was fine. This group of guys is all kind of brought together, maybe aren't familiar with everybody. So tonight was maybe a feeling out process. And I don't know. I think the racing was fine. I think tomorrow night it'll calm down quite a bit.
Absolutely. The racing itself was absolutely phenomenal. You guys put on a heck of a show whenever Green Flag Racing was underway. I kind of made a point of it tonight that, it's not that the racing was bad, because it wasn't, but I said more of a Friday the 13th angst. Do you think that maybe had anything to play into how tonight just unfolded?
A little bit. That, and it's just a different mindset when you're looking at 40 laps on the scoreboard versus 400. So you kind of get that anxiousness level ramped up, and everybody kind of gets on the loud pedal a little bit more than they normally would.
So coming from a podium finish tonight, what can we expect to see from you tomorrow? From having that 30-minute practice session and then a heat race and then a absolute hectic dash race tonight.
Well, for me, it'll depend on what Kelsey Rogers does, I guess. Brett has declined the added challenge to go to the back. So it's up to Kelsey now if he wants to start back there or not. If he elects to qualify and start where he qualifies, then I don't mind going back there because it usually takes me about 100 laps to get going anyway. So I'm looking forward for myself to be there at the end. I think I know my capabilities on long runs, and I'm really hoping that this thing maybe takes a green flag run from about lap 200 on. I'd be really happy.
Well, hopefully we will be talking to you tomorrow. But before we let you go, is there anybody you want to shout out or anybody you want to thank for tonight?
I want to thank Jim for putting this on again, the 23rd year doing this. Jimmy McKinley started this deal a while back and had enough confidence in Jim to take over. He's done a great job with it the last 15 or so years. So it's pretty cool to be a part of this event every year, and it's the longest running online event. He does a great job with it. So everybody at ASRS, him and Sam did a good job tonight. Sam's got his hand full tomorrow night. And I'd like to thank all my guys at All-Star Sim, Justin, Zach, Travis. Travis will be with me tomorrow night, but we're looking forward to maybe putting 2 cars up on the podium.
Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing you guys go at the nail tomorrow, and good luck in tomorrow's night's race.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Trey.
All right, thank you. That is Matt Vade, our P3 finisher. Up next, we're going to hand it over to Eric with Jason Stewart.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure now to welcome the driver of car number 14 out of Daytona Beach, Florida, Jason Stewart, who was able to celebrate a very strong finish. Actually came home in 4th, and Jason, it was a wild one. Congratulations on the top 5 finish, first of all, but man, what a race. Was it that wild from your perspective as well?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I was really surprised about the dive bombs and the blocking going on that early in the race.
Now, we talked a lot about the runner-up in Kelsey Rogers, who started at the back of the field, but the reality is your story was exactly the same. You rolled off 23rd. You actually got put on your lid in heat number 1, turn 1, lap 1, and you were able to navigate your way through that big wreck that happened on the back straightaway. Tell us about how you were able to keep your nose clean, not only through that first incident, but through the many that took place all throughout the night.
Yeah, the right side of the car took all the damage tonight. It was just wreck avoidance, and I seem to be pretty good at that lately, but there's a lot of luck on the side of me tonight.
Now, you mentioned luck playing a huge role, but obviously it took some skill behind the wheel to be able to get through all that carnage. Granted, the race did come down to time. We didn't get all 40 laps in, but I mean, being that the race was as topsy-turvy as it was there ever a point where you thought that you were out of this thing, or did you think that you had a shot to win all the way down to the very end?
Yeah, at the beginning, but then after that first caution, we moved up by 10 spots. If I didn't stop on the backstretch, I'd have been right there with Kelsey. I think he went up like 6th on that first wreck from all the way from 25th. So, but it was just keeping the nose clean and trying not to wreck.
Now, I think all of us were looking at this as an opportunity to kind of get a feel for who to watch and how things will go for tomorrow night's 400. As a driver, do you think that you were able to check any of those boxes? Is there something that you learned tonight that you could take with you to tomorrow's 400-lap event, or was tonight just so crazy that there wasn't too much to unpack?
I learned we're going to have to save tires tomorrow. Tonight, you didn't have to. We were all driving it deep in, and tomorrow tires are going to come into play. So that's the one thing I learned. And if you're in the back of the field, you just got to take your time working your way back through it, because driving full bore through the field, you ain't going to last 400 laps.
Well, fortunately, you were able to be patient enough to make your way on up for that top 5 finish. Before we let you go, though, I understand that a lot of people think sim racing, it's a sole venture, it's a sole effort. I guarantee you got some people behind you who help make these events for you possible. Anybody you want to shout out with the strong run tonight on what was a very chaotic night in Nashville?
Yep, Checker Flag PCs, Patriot Marketing and Media, Mod Chaser Mitch, Kirkwood Enterprises, Hacksaw PCs, and TNT Firearms. That's who we had on the car tonight. And, I appreciate them being on the car. They do a great job sponsoring me.
One of the drivers representing Dirty Bird Sim Racing, again out of Daytona Beach, Florida, Jason Stewart, celebrating a strong finish tonight. Congratulations, buddy, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, and can't wait to watch the broadcast when I hit bed here.
Thanks a lot, Jason Stewart. We look forward to seeing how you're able to perform tomorrow as well. With that, we'll turn it back on over to Andrew, who I believe we have another driver on deck who's going to give us their side of what was a wild, wild event that we had here for this Dash for Cash leading up to tomorrow night's big show.
And while Mitch Brown wasn't around at the end, Mitch Brown certainly had quite a tumultuous way of getting to 12th place when it was all said and done. Mitch, you were up front for most of the evening, but you didn't quite finish up there. Finishing 12th, not the night you wanted for the 51 car out of Rhode Island.
It's just another night. We're just trying to, it was a very hectic dash race. I think I kind of learned something having to go at the back. It's going to be very tough for anybody that decides to take the risk and start from the back tomorrow, because you get one big wreck and it couldn't ruin your race very early.
Yeah, we definitely saw that many a time this evening. Jim Foose and I think David Patton come to mind in terms of drivers who just could not get out of it. But you just, for the beginning of the race, couldn't get out of the front part of the field, but you couldn't quite get up to first or second until later on once you got by that 25. What was it like trying to work by Fleury? What was it like trying to work by Hahn? And what can you take from this evening and apply to tomorrow?
It's just, that whole race, I was just trying to get a long enough green run where we can get like 5 or 10 laps. First couple laps, my car wasn't really doing that well, and then once we hit like lap 5 and lap 6, it kind of started coming together, and then we get a caution, and then we had to do it all over again. So, just gotta be patient tomorrow night. It's gonna be 400 laps. I feel like the race is gonna be much better tomorrow night because of it.
We're seeing a big incident here on the front stretch, I think, coming to the finish. What was it like trying to get by some of that stuff once you went back to the back end of the field, or not the back end, but towards the middle portion of the field, trying to get through some of that stuff and race those guys when you had been up front all night long?
Just picking and choosing which lane was gonna go. It's kind of hard to, if you're faster. I felt like I was a little faster than the guys in front of me, and it's kind of hard to. You don't want to be that guy that forces it 3 wide and wipes out 2 other cars just because of your stupidity. So I just pick and choose my battles, just try to get as much as I can at the end.
And so going into tomorrow night, I'm going to put you on the seat here, on the spot, I guess. If you had to pick any spot, 1 to 36, what position are you betting on as far as going from the start to the end that wins?
These kind of races, just looking at the field, and you guys got like Matt and Kelsey, they all started from the back. I honestly think the top 5, maybe at least one of those guys will have started in the top 5. The rest will probably have started outside top 10. I think the winner of the race starts between 13th and 18th.
I'll tell you what, I think you could take one of our jobs. You can be an analyst anytime you want. It's a pretty good, being on the spot right there, I think that's a pretty good rundown of how we might see things pan out tomorrow. Mitch, best of luck to you out there, but before we let you go, who do you have to thank, who do you have to shout out on this 51 machine?
Just gotta thank Patriot Media Market Solutions. They've been a big sponsor of us the last couple years. Checker Flag PC is gonna sponsor myself, My Chaser Media. Jim for putting this on. I really... this was a test to patience tonight because of all this chaos and crashing and stuff like that. So I give credit to him and Sam for just being patient and just let everything play out. And also want to thank you guys for hopping on board and broadcasting this weekend's events. Hopefully we put on a better show tomorrow night for 400 laps.
Hey, it may not have gone green all that much, but it was still exciting, especially watching you and Brett and Matt mix it up there at the front. Best of luck to you tomorrow. We'll see how it all works out.
All right, thank you, guys.
And that's Mitch Brown finishing in the 7th position. And now I'm going to put each of you guys on the spot here, guys. Who do you think, or I guess rather, same question I had for Mitch. Where do you think the winner comes from in tomorrow's field? At the start of the race, we have 36 starters. 1 through 36, where's the winner coming from?
Well, I think Mitch may be onto something if we have a race that's similar to what we had tonight. A little bit chaotic, a little bit of conflict and contact and chaos. I think the winner could come from mid-pack. However, being that the format of tomorrow night is a little bit different in the sense of there's not going to be any heat races. As of right now, I don't see any information on my card highlighting that of an invert. Thus, you may have the fastest qualifiers starting up towards the front of the field. Now, Brett Hahn, the driver who won tonight, he was not the fastest car in qualifying, although not sure if he was trying to play a little bit of the invert game. So that's something that, I wish we had a chance to talk to him about, see if that 10th place qualifying run was legitimate or not, and if there's more speed in that car when he has to be put on the clock for 2 laps for tomorrow night's 400 lapper. Me personally, I would say it's going to come out of the first 2 rows. I say the driver who starts in the top 4, or the driver who wins, will have started from the top 4 spots. But don't hold me to it, because I was way off on how I thought tonight was going to go. But we'll see how it all pans out tomorrow. But that's where I'm placing my chips for as far as where the winner may be coming from when it comes down to the big money time.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and just say, throw a random number here. Let's say 21st. So whoever starts 21st, I'm going to say they got a good shot tomorrow.
Well, maybe the guy who starts 36th, then we have a chance to talk to him because, well, if he takes the challenge, Brett Hahn, certainly an interesting evening to get things started for the race weekend of the original online All-American 400, but you do so how everybody wanted to start the weekend with a big fat dub. You go to victory lane here for the All-American Dash.
Yeah, thanks for having me in the booth. Finally figured my way up here, and glad I can talk to you guys. Yeah, it was for sure a interesting one. Got lucky and missed that big one going down the backstretch there, and knew I had to get the lead here as quickly as I could with how those caution flags were flying every 3 laps, it seemed.
So, Brett, we've been talking for the last couple of minutes about where the winner of tomorrow night's race might come from on the starting grid. Of course, you have that chance to take the shotgun challenge. Are you going to take it, start from the back, and try and win an extra $25?
I think I may just take my starting position and try and stay up front, because you never know, as you saw with lap 1 here, this place can get congested in a hurry. So I think I might pass on the challenge for tomorrow night.
Well, hey, whatever you got to do to make sure you have the best chance to win tomorrow night, because the 71 looked pretty good this evening and wouldn't want to hurt that in any way, shape, or form. Tell us about trying to get by Nick Fleury in the 25 car there and hold back Mitch Brown and then later on Kelsey Rogers for that race win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting around Nick, I was looking to his inside and I could tell I could roll a little bit better center speed, so I just had to haul it on the outside and hope it stuck and didn't push into the wall, and got a good run on him and cleared him. And then, yeah, I was just watching my mirror, making sure I didn't overdrive the corner too bad and push up and give them a lane and a big run to try and get around me. But luckily, the 71 machine out here had some pretty good drive off tonight.
Absolutely did, and you got to learn a lot this evening to apply to tomorrow's 400 lapper. What exactly were you able to learn that can apply to tomorrow's original online it's a tongue twister for sure. Original online All-American 400. There we go. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, it's for sure a long title, but yeah, for sure, starting 11th in this heat race, I got to learn a little bit about passing. For sure, it seems like the place to pass is on the outside, but then you got to try and do it saving your right front, especially with tomorrow being a 400 lapper. So definitely learned a lot for the short run speed on how hard you can push it, but definitely will be hopefully a different paced race tomorrow night.
That seems to be the general theme, that it's going to be a very relaxed start tomorrow. Before we get there, though, of course, you got some guys that you got to shout out, I'm sure, on your car. Who do you have to thank?
Yeah, for sure. Want to thank QuickTime for coming on. If you ever need decals or anything on a real race car, hit up QuickTime. He's just starting up his company, so that'll be cool in the Midwest here. I want to thank all the Brett the Jet fans out there rooting on the 71 machine. And yeah, thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, and it looks like a sweet one for sure.
Brett, we appreciate your time here after the race. I think 20 or so minutes after the race as well, hanging out with us, waiting to talk. We appreciate you, and we'll be seeing you tomorrow night as well. Best of luck.
All right, sweet. Thank you, guys.
And that's Brett Hahn winning the All-American Dash this evening in pretty spectacular fashion as well. I had no clue how that was going to go. I honestly thought Kelsey was going to dive it down to the bottom side a little bit harder to try and get to him there, but Brett Hahn ends up hanging on and winning the All-American Dash. We've talked a lot about Patriot Media Marketing Solutions. Of course, I want to thank them for their efforts here for the All-American Dash and helping out in the entire original online All-American 400 race weekend. We also want to talk about partners of our own here at Pit Stop TV, and I'll just lead right off here with Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. You provide the image you want, and they will custom create a beautiful framed, high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. With Sound Art, you get the best of both worlds. Visit TucsonSoundArt.com for additional information and use promo code PITSTOPTV at checkout for 10% off of your order. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy, and at Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, Ashley Bullier, well, she's a certified micropigmentation specialist, so she will definitely hook you up with professional, safe, and personalized services. You can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com or call or text them at 207-358-8683. If you're looking for the best solutions for your permanent makeup concerns, give them a call today to book a consultation. And of course, Pit Stop TV's new parent organization that specializes in various sim racing resources, well, it's Whiplash Media, providing paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs like the one that you watched all evening here on Pit Stop TV. They're all available over at Whiplash Media, and they're also working on their presence in real racing, offering services like photography, social media management, and public relations. Go to whiplash-media.com for more information. And we have to tell you about Patriot a little bit, actually. We've talked a lot about them, but what are they? Well, they're a media and marketing service company run by racers for racers. They offer, much like Whiplash Media actually, photography, media creation, livery design, sponsorship proposals, and more. If you want the best product for a competitive price, contact them on Facebook. If you mention that you saw them on Pit Stop TV, they'll give you 20% off your order through Black Friday. So kind of a little bit of competition there here on the channel for tonight and tomorrow night, but friendly competition as well. They've helped us out a lot this weekend, so appreciate all of their work. We'll, of course, walk down our race results this evening. Eric, take it away with the top 10.
Yeah, and what an incredible race it turned out to be there in the late stages. We saw Brett Hahn, who we just heard from just a short minute ago, grabbing the victory after having to start a little bit further down the running order by virtue of his heat race win. And Kelsey Rogers, who's the fastest car in qualifying, caught up in a crash in his heat race, started just about last, comes up just under a tenth and a half short of victory with his second place finish. And Matt Vade, who we also heard from just a little bit while earlier, very happy to finish in third. Jason Stewart, who we had on just a short while ago, looking to improve on his fourth place finish tonight when it comes down to the 400 lapper tomorrow night. And Nick Fleury, who led, I believe, unofficially the most laps in this race and also proved just how strong he was on starts and restarts, rounded out your top five. Anthony Pelican and Jim Foose, 6th and 7th. That's an incredible run by Foose, considering the fact that that car was involved in a number of different incidents throughout the night, able to salvage a top 10. Bladen Edwards, another one of the heat race winners on the night, comes home at 8th. And Mark Myers, a name we didn't call much throughout the night, did not have the best of run in qualifying, not the best of runs in his heat race, still able to manage a top 10 finish. And Grant Brown takes you through your top 10.
Rounding out 11th through 20th, we have 11th, we have Michael Whiting, 12th, we have Mitch Brown, who we just talked to just a moment ago. 13th, we have the 08 of Daniel Gutierrez. 14th, we have Woody Mayhem. 15th, we have Caden Tufts. 16th, we have Greg Evans. Tim Knott in 17th. Adam Hogland in 18th. Mike Carlson 19th. And rounding out 20th, we have David Patton.
Roll back to 21st. That's where you'll find Ethan Johnson out of Hudson, North Carolina. You know, Hudson, North Carolina, actually home to Tri-County Speedway, and that's a place that's going to get some late model racing. Well-deserved as well next year. Look forward to that. Nick Brand at the number 17. He finishes in 22nd out of Bossier City, Louisiana, it looks like. Alan Young out of Lancaster, New Hampshire, finishing 23rd. Lowell Jewell at number 18, he will finish in 24th. Out of Florence, Kentucky, 25th goes to Brandon Hughes in the number 111 out of French Lick, Indiana. How about that for a town name? Caleb Nelson, he was pretty fast this evening. I believe qualified second, started 6th place in our second heat and looked like he was going to be very, very good this evening. I'm not sure he made it to our feature race this evening. Must have had something come up, but he is out of Moortown, Vermont with the Camping Universe team. You see Trey Patton on there. I'm going to roast you again a little bit here, Trey. Registering as a driver, we'll fix that for tomorrow. But hey, you got your name on there, that's for sure.
Yeah, at least I got my name on the broadcast one more time, so not for the reason I wanted it to be on there, but there we go. You see it again over on the side with our crew today, but nonetheless on TV again, so that's always a good thing, right?
Yeah, just maximizing how many times people see your name on there. I do want to, I'll mention it again here in a second, but I just want to thank all of you guys in the booth with me this evening, and Corey Rexford on social media for helping out. I'm certainly looking forward to tomorrow's original online All-American 400. We're going to have to practice that name, I think, over and over so we don't mess that up, at least me anyway.
Yeah, and if you want to make it even more difficult, you could throw the word annual in there, as this is going to be the 23rd time that they have done this. And one thing that I like while I was brushing up on my history of this event is it kind of really does simulate the real-life version of the All-American 400. Obviously the sim version's been under a number of different platforms, moved to iRacing in 2011. It's been under a couple of different formats, just as the real-life All-American 400 has as well. So this race carries a lot of significant meaning to those who love short-track racing, and I think they got the perfect car, the perfect format, if I'm being biased, the perfect broadcast partner, and I'm very excited for tomorrow night's event. I don't think it's going to be as crazy as what we saw tonight, but I do in fact think it's going to be just as entertaining, and I'm very, very fortunate to be a part of this call with you guys, and I can't wait. I might actually have a little bit of trouble sleeping tonight. I'm so ramped up about it, so let's go, baby.
Yeah, if this is anything like the real one was, it's going to be pretty calm, cool, and collected for about the first half of the race. One thing different from the real one to this one is that the real one this year was 300 laps, so these guys have to go around another 100 laps which makes it the 400. But these guys, like I said, these guys need to be focused, stay calm, cool, collected for the first half of these races. They do have tires that they have to manage. Green flag pit stops will be a thing. There's just going to be a lot to factor in tomorrow. You don't want to make any enemies early on because who knows, it may come back to bite you.
Absolutely. And Trey, you mentioned that this year's real All-American 400 that you were actually in attendance of only went 300 laps. We don't have those tire concerns here on iRacing.com. Do not have to worry about that. We will go all 400 laps here at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, and it's going to be a doozy as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier, very thankful to Jim Foose and everybody at the ASRS, the American Sim Racing Series, and everybody at Patriot Media Marketing Solutions for bringing us on board. It's going to be a fun one. Tonight, a bit of a warm-up, a chance to get our feet wet in things once again and get ready for tomorrow's coverage. It's going to be a lot of fun, for sure. That will conclude our coverage tonight of the All-American Dash, however, presented by Patriot Media and Marketing Solutions. We have Pit Stop TV. Thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Join us again tomorrow evening for Pit Stop TV's coverage of the original online All-American 400, the 23rd running of it as well. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1. Eric Brennan and Trey Patton have been with me on the mic tonight. Corey Rexford on social media. I'm Andrew Cardinelli IV, and for all of Pit Stop TV, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time, hopefully tomorrow night.